Hi guys, and welcome to my review of A Housemaid. This is a psychological thriller starring Amanda Seyfried, Sydney Sweeney and Brandon Sklenar. This is going to be quite a tricky review to do because I went into this movie really not knowing really anything about it except for that I was kind of like expecting this sort of psychological thriller that maybe would be kind of like a throwback to those psychological thrillers that we had got in the early 90s, such as like A Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Single White Female, all of that. That is kind of like essentially what we got. I do think that I'm going to be trying to keep this review as vague as I can and as spoiler free as I can, because like I said, I went into this movie quite blind, and I think that that's the best way to go into this movie. I think unless you know about this movie going into it, I think the better your experience will be. Um, so. Um, So yeah, I'll give it maybe another like week or so, and then I'll do a more spoiler-filled review. So I'm gonna try and keep this as just as generic as I can. That's gonna be a little bit tricky because this is a very twisty movie, as all good psychological thrillers should be, I guess. But yeah, the basic plot that we get here is we have Sydney Sweeney's character playing a very down on her luck person, to a point that she's kind of like just essentially just living out of a car. So she's kind of trying to big her resume up and trying to get this job as this housekeeper for this wealthy couple played by Amanda Seyfried and Brandon Sklenar. So she's basically hired by this couple, and what becomes like quickly apparent is Amanda Seyfried's character starts to act in very disturbing ways, in very erratic ways. You contrast that with we basically give this sort of quite dark backstory, and kind of like in contrast to that, Brandon Sklenar's character, who is a husband who is very kind of sympathetic is to Sydney Sweeney's character, and much more sympathetic of the situation that she's in. I think that everybody does a really good job here. Especially, I will give props. Obviously Sydney Sweeney does a really good job, but I think in this mix she's kind of the most. Her character is kind of like the closest you get to being kind of like a straight guy, where she's just in this insane situation. You've got Amanda Seyfried, who I just think that does a really fantastic performance, though, because the role kind of demands so much of her. Where initially she's, like I said, she just acted very crazy, very psychotic, very erratic, and then as the film goes on, you kind of like peel away the layers. You learn more about her and more about her backstory, and also props to Brandon Sklenar as well, who this guy is going to be the next Batman, the next, like, he just is. I could just see it. This guy is Bruce Wayne, right? So because this role kind of demands that he plays in contrast this this like a rich, wealthy, elitist husband who is just very suave, very sophisticated, very charming, and he kind of, brings that right to the point where it is literally as if, it was some sort of like AI generated thing where you were just put into this like AI generator. We've got this character, he needs to have all of these characteristics, and we need an actor who can just embody that, and boof, you get this actor Brandon Sklenard that gets chucked out as a result. He is just, and I think that what it really does really well is that everyone basically does a really good job of making this believable, right? So you have basically this little, right the way through the movie, you have this little kind of tease, these little seeds are planted where basically you kind of just know that Sydney Sweeney's character is going to end up embarking on this affair with the husband. I don't think that's really a spoiler because I think that there's lots of seeds. Just like Amanda Seyfried's behaviour, I think there's a lot of seeds kind of laid down right from the beginning. So I think that it's pretty obvious. I think you'll catch on quite early on that this is kind of the road that these two characters are going down. I think that, there's, with that, there's a part of your brain that, where you're kind of just going, well, what the hell are you doing? You're in this like crazy situation. You got Amanda Seyfried's character just really acting really disturbing and really going off on you, and you're gonna embark on an affair with the husband, and what are you doing? Just get the hell out of it, all of that. And I think that as the film goes on, it does a really good job of silencing that critical part of your brain where you're just going, what the hell, why would you do any of this? Do you know what I mean? Why don't you just get the hell out of it? I think it does a really good job of providing enough backstory, enough layers to these characters that you kind of like totally understand why she's just, not just turning her tail and run, and how she's kind of trapped in this situation. But you also, like said, are just you end up buying into it because Brandon Sklenard and Amanda Seyfried do such a good job of just kind of really embodying what the role demands of them, and in order to kind of like sell all of this synopsis. I think that another thing that I really admired about this movie that I thought that really was quite masterful was that that kind of like along with that, when it first started, for maybe about the first half hour or so, I don't know, I was in this cinema, so I wasn't really kind of keeping track of time, but it felt like as it started going on through like the first act, I was a bit like, I'm kind of like enjoying this, but it's kind of taken me a little bit out because it just felt a little bit too heightened. It felt a little bit too artificial. It didn't kind of I didn't really feel that it necessarily had a grounded element that really made me buy into that this is something that could like realistically happen. It felt a little bit of a stretch. It felt a little bit maybe too melodrama. It felt a bit and what I'm kind of like happy to say is with every twist and turn that the story takes, with every reveal that it does, it makes that go away. And it is, really quite quite masterful in the way that it does that. Um, on a more mixed note, obviously with a movie like this that's taken so many twists and turns, along with that, maybe it's kind of just maybe the nature of the beast, but along with that, there's some contrivances. Where you always have to have a little bit of sprinkling the bullshit in order for it to kind of like all work. And you do have that. There is stuff where there's, in the final act where I'm a bit like, obviously I can't really go too deep into this, but there's just things that kind of like happen where it's a little bit too convenient, or things just you have those situations where something happens just because the kind of the movie kind of demands that they happen, or when you kind of take into the characters that you've got on display here, you kind of go, why would they fall for this when and there's a little bit of a there's a little bit of where the certain plans or actions that the character takes, or the turns that the script takes, feel a little bit too preempted. Sometimes they feel a little bit too kind of premeditated, where you do kind of a little bit see it coming before it actually does. But on the whole, guys, I thought that this was a really solid movie. I really enjoyed this. I thought that it was like I said, it was a really welcome throwback to. It was a really welcome throwback to those 90s psychological thrillers. So we had got another note is that this was based on a book that was written just like a few years ago as well. I can't draw any comparisons on that. I can't really add any, because I haven't read the book, so I can't tell you necessarily how well this movie kind of adapts the book, but yeah, so just kind of like taking this movie on it just at face value. Yeah, I was really impressed with what I had got here, and yeah, I think it seems that this movie has created like a really good buzz. So hopefully this will create a little bit of a little bit of a resurrection of a kind of a domestic psychological drama subgenre. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, really enjoyed this movie. Yeah, didn't realize until after I had seen this movie that it was directed by Paul Feig as well, who was a director I've never. I know a lot of people talked about him, but he's never been a director that's really done it for me. Yeah, just really also glad that he's delivered something that's finally landed with me, and I can give him real kind of like props for what he accomplished with this movie. So yeah, absolutely fantastic job. Yeah, that pretty much like wraps it up. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your own thoughts were. If you've seen The Housemaid, obviously just keep in mind that obviously trying to keep this as kind of like as spoiler free as possible. So if you can kind of like keep your comments in line with that, or at least give a kind of disclaimer if you are going to get into spoilers. And if you haven't seen The Housemaid and you're thinking of doing it, then I would absolutely recommend that you do that. But yeah, just let me know what your thought processes is maybe going into it. If you're going to do that, what's your expectation, what's your excitement level, all of our fun stuff. Let me know down in the comment section, and until next time, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.